Technically, this is your like round 2 of Leftist and Chill, so we get to skip the whole questionnaire and the interview. We just get to chill. Yeah.
I get to be a returning champion.
You're my first returning champion. Yeah, and I'll steal that language from you. That's what you use on your show. Meet the left.
I think I'm stealing it from like professional wrestling.
Oh, it's always good to know the lineage. It's good to know that professional wrestling is the grandfather show to the show. Because I don't know. I look at Meet the Left. That's the show that you and I do. You reach out to your actual lefty friends, and I'm talking shit about my fake lefty friends, I guess. You reach out to your organizer friends, your wide network of based lefties, authors, politicians, etc. Oh, here's the little guy, and it's I look at my show as like the little baby version of your show, and I'm like a little baby bird in many different ways. As you know, I'm like a new leftist, whereas you're a based, experienced leftist with the beard to prove it. And
thanks.
And dude, thank you for hanging out with me today. And so how about we just give people really quickly like the context? I asked you to sort of like review my new format of my new interview show and just like the general idea of it. I am trying to learn from you, and you learned from Karen Lewis, the 3 principles of building leftist unity, power, and strength. And that's what I want to do. And I don't want to fuck up, and I want to just do good things and not do bad things. And I was hoping you'd be able to tell me how I can improve and whether, what I should stop doing or if there's another way for me to try to learn some important concept. And then you came up with the idea of the media training, and how about we just go from there? Like, what does that mean?
That sounds good. So when I worked for the Illinois Federation of Teachers, a big part of my job was so the Illinois Federation of Teachers is a statewide federation. So not about 200 union locals of mainly teachers unions are members of the IFT, and they rely on, many of the locals rely on the state federation for assistance, because like you have like the Chicago Teachers Union, which is our biggest local with about 25,000 members, of which I'm a member of. They have their own staff there because the dues that they collect is enough for that. So like they have a whole operation just for the Chicago schools and the union, members that work at them. And then so, you'll have like some districts like we'll have like 300 members or 30 members if there's only like one school in the entire union, and they'll rely on us. And part of my job was to be kind of like Mr. Wolf. Like if there was a problem, if there's a difficult bargaining over a contract, if there's a strike, they would often send me down to train the members on how to do media, how to like reach out to the press, how to create a message, how to do social media, how to do everything they can to create pressure against the boss. And it was a really fun job. The reason why I quit, because I wanted to go back to teaching, and I also was tired of being on the road all the time. But I do miss doing this part. So I figured a good way of kind of learning how to just improving your own like kind of media presence is if I took you through this training on how to have a message and how to carry that message through on an interview, basically.
Wow. Okay. Fuck yeah. I'm so excited. Don't let me stop you.
So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you, buddy.
I don't know if I'll be able to get to the chat in real time, but okay. Definitely if you have questions, throw it in there. And because, there's always questions about, media tactics, and, it's an ongoing process.
Okay. Awesome.
1 second.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see. I'll start off with. Well, I guess I'll start off with messaging. So a good thing to have when you are like, let's say on a campaign or, just like you have some sort of little philosophical point even that you just want to get across to the day, maybe even during a stream. It's good to like have your message written as what's called a top line message. And what you want to think about when you think of a top line message is if you are writing the news headline for that day, what would you want it to say? And then you kind of work backwards from there. And the idea there is like you're trying to write a compelling and easy to remember message for reporters to carry if you're like on a campaign. Or even like, you know, I tell people like if there's an idea on a stream that they really want to get across, they should not feel bad about being a little repetitive about it because people come in and out of the streams. And also people, you know, the first time you hear something, it doesn't always sink in. And whenever I give people this training, they always say like, well, I don't want to sound repetitive. And then I remind them like, you know, in the case of a media campaign, you're talking to multiple sources a day and you want them all to be on the same message that you're on. So like if you say ABC, you give them one message, NBC, another message, it gets confusing and either each side then can kind of, they can lend their own interpretation to it if things get confusing. So you want to make things as simple as possible. So
and like good quote unquote good politicians do that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like they know very much that this is their job, messaging, and they will repeat themselves. And not to say Donald Trump's a good person, but he's a good example of being repetitive and why that's effective and how that can be effective.
Exactly.
I hate that I'm learning from Donald Trump, but you get the idea. You all get the idea. Oh, Jesus. So, I'm canceled.
When I say message, I'm gonna save you all a lot of money because messaging it's a huge industry. All it means is the idea you want to communicate, the idea you want to come from your mouth and like be implanted in the other person's brain. And so a message is not something that's the same as a slogan, for example. It's not like the Fight for 15 isn't the message. Although that was actually a pretty brilliant one because the message was contained in there, which was the $15 minimum wage. But like, for example, you know, yes, we can. That isn't a message, but that's a slogan. That's something that, you know, gets people pumped up to think about Barack Obama. But a message is like the actual idea you want to get across to someone. And so when you're when you're getting interviewed by someone, one of the things that you really want to remember is, you know, you have your message, your top line message, which can be something as simple as, why don't we think of something? Dan, is there like a particular issue that you'd want to like get across to the public?
To the broader public? How wide am I? What's my target audience? I'm sorry. I stream to like lefties all day. Leftists.
You want to get it out to let's say the left media. So like left streamers, left magazines and stuff like that. Something you want to get across to the broader left.
Okay. Something that's blown my mind recently is I'll go with the amount of people who are who are unhoused versus the amount of available dwellings in the United States, and the disparity that reveals a deeply unsettling reality about this country, which smashes the idea of there being, you know, not enough, and completely shines a light on the system of power that enables it. It's not that we can't. It's our policy that we do keep these people unhoused.
Okay, cool. So
I don't know. Just right there. Yeah. How about that? Yeah, we could just go with that.
The top line message is going to be something super, super simple out of that. So let's just say there's no housing. So like there is no housing scarcity.
Yeah.
And like that sounds really simple. And I think like all of the leftist media would like already agree with that. But like if no one is saying that specific message and like leading a campaign on it, then, you know, that could be something that it leaves our psyche. essentially.
Yeah.
So something even as simple as there is no housing scarcity, that might be something you want Jacobin to write about at the same time In These Times does, and, Hassan streams about it or something like that. So this is where I would start, like having a message like that, like there is no housing scarcity. And then from there, you're going to want to pull up stories. Think about like compelling stories from people. And this can take all sorts of different forms, like videos, testimonials, press releases. Like you could send out to the media people's personal stories about this. Tangible images. So like, this is a way of like making things very personalized and showing how homelessness is a problem and how homelessness impacts people. So that'd be one way of like supporting. So think of these as like the sub points that you would do. So like there is no housing scarcity would be the big top line message. And to support that, you'd have these stories as one option.
Okay. Yeah.
The second thing you want to like really load up with your messaging are statistics. Okay. So, and this is where like this point is going to be so important because you could like just lay out X amount of homes are in, America, and we have X amount of unhoused people, things like that. Any kind of numbers, ratios, comparisons. So like what you're starting with stories are personal, and then statistics are like longitudinal. That's showing how this problem that you showed like a glimpse into is actually way bigger than that.
Okay. Yeah.
And the third thing, and this is the most fun part of a message, when we're already talking about homeless people, it's not going to be fun, but sound bites is the third thing that you should kind of have at the ready. Plays on words, memorable quips, pop culture references, humor, things like that. And this is like, of course, where, you could find ways of carrying your message through a meme. And they don't always have to be funny or fun memes, but they have to be memorable, quick, not a lot of thought into them. So little sound bites you could put out there. So this is where you start writing slogans.
And Twitter's good training for that.
Yes.
Helps you absolutely. To like work on your what is that, the art of like writing little fucking copyright, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, copywriting basically like with a lot of when we were at 140 characters, I used to like write a big tweet and then condense it down.
Yeah, it's still a little rough. That was it 280 now, but still, yeah. Oh my gosh, much better. Holy moly, that's about as many words as I can type at one go, so it's perfect.
Okay, so that first part I wanted to take you through because that defines the idea of a top line message.
Okay.
So now I want to talk about like tactics in media interviews.
Nice.
And the way I'm like, I think this is going to be a valuable part because I'm going to talk to you from the point of view of the person being interviewed, but I'm also going to talk about like common tactics that interviewers use in this process.
Okay. Oh my gosh, this is fascinating. You guys are getting the goods today. Holy shit. Gosh, chat. Give me a 69 if you're jamming out there.
Pretty good money for this.
Right.
But I've done this for DSA. I've done this for like a number of leftist and socialist organizations for free or for cheap. Because it's so scary for people. Like they say the number one fear people have is public speaking, and like giving media interviews is a form of that. And like once people always or often they walk away from these trainings saying like, oh, now I feel a lot more confident in going out and doing this.
I just want to make sure I keep my mind as open as I can without it falling out. And you're like, hey Dan, I'm gonna give you the goods, and I'm like, what? Let's get my fucking mentor on to give me the fucking goods. Okay, so tactics and media interviews.
So you want to have that top line message, which is that like that overarching, very simple message with your facts, figures, and statistics and everything, and your messaging all under that. Because what you're going to do, your goal. Oh, 1 second.
Yeah. This is awesome.
Your goal of as a spokesperson is to get that message across. And one of the things I always tell people in these trainings is that they should think about like the person who's interviewing you is a vessel for your message. So you're not there as like their employee. You know, they're not your boss.
They're not using you. You're using them.
Yeah, well, it's a bit of a dance.
Ooh,
because
yes,
you have to convince
Takes two, baby.
You have to convince the reporter that, you know, your story is worth writing about, and your message, your quote is quotable. And then, you know, that way they can make money off of your good quote or your compelling message or things like that. So it really is like a relationship where you're negotiating a lot with reporters. And so like you want to make sure that, you know, you feel like you're in charge. And one of the ways of doing that is having your own message ready to go. So like when I do interviews, even, you know, on streams, or for NBC National, like I've done, I always have my own notes. And my notes are that top line message. Sometimes I'll have a few like quips or there or something like that, you know, play on words that I think will be very printable. And so, yeah, I would, you know, lead with that. And whenever a reporter asks you questions that might make you feel uncomfortable, or it's just something you don't want to talk about, a way of doing that, getting through that tactfully, is with a pivot. So let's say, for example, you're being interviewed about this homeless question. And so they'll say, hey, Dan, so these developers that we talked to earlier said that, you know, simply giving people homes would put them out of a job. You know, how do you think they feel? Now, a pivot here, if someone asks you, how do you think someone else feels? An easy one is, I can't speak for them. I am not a paid spokesperson for the developers, but I can say this, that we have, you know, 3 times as many homes as we need in this country. So like, remember, it's your message, and like any question they throw at you, if it's going to help your cause, you know, answer it. If it's not going to help you, you can always pivot to something that will help. And if the reporter is going to,
how does it build power or strength? Like if it's not building power or strength or unity, pivot.
Yes.
Okay.
That's a really good way of looking at it. Think about that in the back of your head. Mm-hmm. Is this going to build strength and unity, or is this going to be like make me look really smart on camera? Mm-hmm. And that's something that like when it comes to spokespeople, that's almost more important than that they are like fast on their feet and charming. Like if they know when to hold back, they are a good spokesperson. I found that like whenever I worked on these union campaigns, I'd work with teachers and I'd say, hey, you'd make a really good spokesperson to someone. And they go, no, I'm introverted. And I'm like, well, yeah, that means that you choose your words extremely wisely and you're not looking for attention. So, you know, let's go through a training and I think you'll be good. Sometimes this isn't in every case, but sometimes extroverted people make bad spokespeople because they feel the need to fill the air with words. And you don't want to do that. You want to like, it's like, again, like a dance when you're talking to reporters.
It's beautiful. That's good shit.
Yeah. That kind of just that boosts my next idea, which is the less you say, the better. If you can get, your idea out in as few words as possible, that's better, because what's going to happen later is the reporter, if it's a print publication, they're going to be looking for quotes and ideas. Giving them less material means that like what's most important to you is going to be what they print. Same thing with video. The reason why I cringe sometimes when I see press conferences where people talk for 15 minutes is that gives the news media, the editors, the option to use anything you said. And you could have said something in jest or said something as like, you know, quoting the other side. And, you know, they could use that at that point.
You're telling me this, and I stream 6 days a week, and I flap my lips all goddamn day, dude. I'm gonna
really
step in
to
it.
you.
That's obviously a big fear of mine. But
Yeah,
I gotta
doesn't
grind it out for
apply.
the subbies, you know.
What's that?
But I gotta grind it out for the subbies. It's just it is what it is, right?
So yeah, that leads me to another point is don't acknowledge the other side. Don't say like, well, housing developers may say,
Right.
You don't have
right.
to. They have millions of dollars, maybe billions of dollars behind it.
Yeah.
And you're the one who has the time in front of a camera. So you use that time to put out your viewpoint. This is a big one.
Like they have their own PR team. Let them do that fucking work. Never play the other side's game. Like,
and then there's always the Thestreisand effect, which is
what's that? Hold on, hold my hand through that.
The Thestreisand effect is when I forget the specifics of it, but she bought this ridiculously lavish house, and then she made a point of like defending herself, and basically no one cared about it until she started talking about it. So that's the reason why you don't give the other side's message, is because sometimes people don't know what the other side's message is, and you don't want to bring that into their attention.
I'm gonna have to look into that. That sounds fascinating. That'll be a little deep dive for me one day on my stream. The Streisand effect. Great shit.
Oh, and the next one.
Don't acknowledge the other side, the other side's concerns. Let them play their own PR game.
Okay. Reporters will sometimes ask you a question, you'll answer it, and then you'll hear dead silence. Do not fill that dead silent time up with words. Don't do that, because sometimes they're taking notes, sometimes they're changing tape in their tape recorder, but no matter what they're doing, they're waiting for you to say something that you don't want to say to kill the uncomfortable silence. And that uncomfortable silence is what they dwell in. Teachers and reporters both do not mind uncomfortable silence, and we use it to our advantage.
That is an interviewer thing. That's an interviewer thing, which is just giving them the silence. Just they say something, you ask them a question, you think they've answered, but almost more than half the time, if you just give them dead silence, they keep talking. I don't know if it's the uncomfortable thing or if they're working through things and it just starts falling out the mouth. I think it's more of the latter, honestly. Otherwise, okay. Don't fill the
Oprah
silence.
Was a queen of that during that interview with the Markle and the Prince, where she's just mugging at times. Like they'll say something and she'll be like,
yeah.
And that's great for memes, but also what she was doing there was like, you should keep talking. I'm going to let you keep talking. And part of it too is because she's Oprah, she's an authority. But some people, like your local reporter down the street, like when you're in the hot seat, they could feel like Oprah to you. Yeah. So let's say you want to walk a reporter through an idea, but you don't want them quoting you on it. You'll say look, I'm going to tell you this, but you got to promise me this is on background. That's the term for it. On background means I'll do this sometimes if I'm explaining a really difficult labor law, like a really difficult to understand labor law to a reporter. Yeah. But I don't want them quoting me as sounding like a technocrat, talking about the very specifics, because that's boring and uncompelling. I'll say look, we have this labor law that says X amount of people have to vote this way for us to strike or something like that. And what that means is that I'm giving them a better understanding, and they might even write about it from my point of view, but they're not going to quote me on it. And then, later on, when they talk to me and I'll say, okay, I'll be
they're playing record. Your game, right?
What was that?
They're spreading your PR message at that point for free, but you don't have to take the flack.
And sometimes they'll be very grateful for that, because the other side, when you're working on a union campaign, for example, they won't be forthright about things. So if you are, you could build a lot of trust, and then you could tell them, report this on background. And what happens is, especially if you're working on a labor campaign, the other side can be as biased as they want to be, but we always have to come with facts and figures. In some cases, like I was doing investigative reporting for reporters, like do all the research and then handing it to them because, there's a host of reasons for that.
Right.
Newsrooms are small, they're overworked.
Yeah. Come on,
like,
you do their job for them. They're going to be happy for it. You give them facts and figures. They're going to be like, all right, well, and the other side gives them fucking none. You're winning.
Yep.
Okay.
So
okay,
it's
I get
unfair, but that we do have to work harder, but we do on the left whenever we're working with media.
Especially because they keep lobbing bombs at us, and we got to keep defending it. It takes infinitely more energy to defend against bullshit claims than it does to make them up. You can just make up you can make up bullshit right now. Anyone can think of something that's not true. Do it. It. I just did it. It's easy.
Something not true. The sky is purple. You can just come up with that on the fly. You can write a message around that.
Did you see Aiko's bisexual lightning background?
Oh, yeah.
It was actually pretty based. I joked about that without realizing I was on mute for about 20 seconds because I'm a pro streamer.
So the other option is to say you want to go off the record.
Okay.
But
instead
don't
of on background, what's the difference?
So off the record means basically like this conversation didn't happen in a way. Whereas on background is more like they could print the ideas you put out there, but they just aren't going to attribute it to you.
Okay.
But with either of them, use them very sparingly and only use them with like reporters that you actually trust. Because you never know what they're going to do after the fact. Like there are untrustworthy reporters in the big media and in the small media. So the relationship is really the biggest part.
Yeah, the relationship, you can feel it building. Yeah, okay. You just got to know what it is to build a relationship, I guess. Yeah,
the next thing is never say no comment. You can always pivot like we talked about before, or you can talk off record or on background, but never say no comment. Makes you look guilty.
Guilty. Yeah. Okay.
Let's see. Another one too. This is a big mistake that people get themselves kind of backed into is if someone asks you a question and you're not sure of the answer, don't answer. Even if like you're on live TV, don't answer. Just say like, "Oh, I'll get back to you. I know exactly who to talk to." But then you make sure that you do find that information and like you email that person or you get back to that person in some way, but never guess on record.
Okay, never guess on record. Yeah,
because especially now people really use that in bad faith.
Oh my gosh, I sort of don't know what you're talking about, but I think we can circle back. Kenzo, what do you think? Okay, perfect.
Be helpful, be assertive, not aggressive. So like
be helpful,
the idea
assertive, not aggressive.
Yeah. You want to like be an alpha, but not like a Chad. I don't know exactly how to put it, but like you want to like
pushover.
If you're someone who like is good at buying cars, think of it that way. Like, you don't want to be like aggressive and mean when you're working with reporters, because that is a relationship you want to build.
Yeah.
Or if you're on camera, you don't want to be seen as like combative, because people often will see that as you being like hiding something, or like you're angry for you're overcompensating.
Yeah, even if you're right for being angry, you get just turn people off, and it's just so disappointing how that's the reality. But it is what it is.
And basically, that's it in a nutshell. I have a longer version too of the training that has like a lot of exercises and things like that. We could maybe do some other time.
Sure.
One thing I do want to leave off with is when you're writing that top line message, a good rule of thumb is take a standard size envelope and fill up one side of whatever notes you might need in an interview. Don't write tiny or anything, but like, kind of standard size letters and everything like that, because anything more than that is just confusing and you're not going to be able to get it across. But like, have that if you're on a campaign, have it with you at all times. I do a lot of interviews online, like, just like we're doing now.
Yeah.
So I just have a Google Doc open at all times if I'm carrying a message for something.
Kenzo, are you kidding me, dude? How much do I owe you?
You could produce my show on Sundays.
Okay. It's a deal. That's an absolute fucking deal. Because that was it sort of feels like one of those things that, like, everyone on Capitol Hill goes through in some way, shape, or form, and it's just like, now I've had it, and I'm like, oh, I'm smarter now. No, obviously I have a lot to review. I took a ton of notes.
Nice.
I was tip-tapping away, click-clacking at the keyboard there. And holy moly, I'm like already like thinking how can I like take this and like tomorrow like make my Twitch stream information, my title of my Twitch, like that's where it starts, That's like one of the places that these lessons go. And so I'm already trying to learn from and synthesize what you shared with us today. I don't know, anything else. I don't know, like I have no questions specifically. Any questions from chat specifically for Kenzo? Holy shit, Kenzo, thank you so much.
Oh, no worries. I'd be happy to come on again and talk about social media and there are like a lot of different facets to communications.
Okay, but really important top-line messaging. Filling up one side of a piece of envelope with notes. Honestly, that's pretty much like 2 note cards, Well, just like 1 note card back to front, back and front, I guess. We did a little experiment, an example with housing scarcity. Talked about tactics in media interviews, how to pivot, how to not fuck up. It's like good. Like some of it is just like such good information because it's like how not to fuck up. Like here's what to do. Also, here's what not to do. And that is the only kind of information that only kind of wisdom that you get from experience. So it's very fortunate that you're able to distill this for us. Talked about walking through reporters through things on background and off the record, and being helpful, being assertive with in these kinds of interactions. You're building a relationship. You don't want to be aggressive or mean. Yo, this is great shit, dude. I cannot believe you've done this. I can't believe you've done this. Honestly, this is exceptional information. I'm gonna take this and monetize it for as much as I can on the YouTube. No, thank you.
I've given this training to organizations, to union presidents, politicians. I hope it demystifies a lot of things, because a consultant like, what I'm doing right now, probably dressed a little nicer, and in person is going to charge you an arm and a leg for this. But I think that the left needs this. And like once you start kind of learning how messaging works and how people prep for their interviews, you're not going to look at interviews the same way again. You're going to watch and you're going to say like, ooh, that person said a little too much. Or you're also going to like really admire the great interviewers. When you start really looking at how they're able to chip away at people, and the guards they put up when they're being interviewed.
Ooh, I'm just like a guy that like talks to people about like why they're a leftist and little tips and tricks. But now I'm like, holy shit, I got to start like really taking this seriously. I'm enjoying this sort of interview format that this channel has evolved into.
Yeah, it's working out really well.
Yeah, it's fun. It's just been like a week or 2, but it feels like a whole lot more. It's a lot of fun. We have like 20 interviews scheduled for this week. Kenzo, I don't want to cut you off if you have anything more to share. Like, just keep chipping away, keep digging in. But I wonder if there's any questions from chat you feel like answering that you see. Ignore everything else that you don't see. Otherwise, I don't know. This has been entirely one-sided, so I just want to like open it to you if you have any thoughts or questions or concerns for me. But I really appreciate this. This has been invaluable. I'm gonna look back on this probably and say the same thing. Yeah.
All right. Not seeing too many questions, but I'll be happy to come back on.
All right.
And talk about this stuff again. I do miss it. Like, this was a big part of my job.
Yeah.
So anytime.
Kenzo, really appreciate that. We're gonna let you go then. Love your face. Right. Thank you so much,
Take care,
buddy.
Dan. Take care, chat.
Now. All right. Whoops. Hey, YouTube. You're watching a clip from my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/iDanSimpson, where you can follow for free and subscribe for only $5 a month. Thanks for watching.